Hi, this is Stephen from Own or Disown. Today I am reviewing the HP Pavilion 15 gaming with the Ryzen 5 4600H and the GTX 1650. Now I purchased this myself from Amazon, but it is cheaper over at Best Buy actually, currently selling for $700. But it has been as low as $450 recently. But is it worth $700? Well, I would say that even at that it is priced too high. Mine had 16GB of RAM and I wouldn't want to pay any more than $550 for it, and I'll tell you why. First off, it ships with only one stick of RAM, which I still can't believe manufacturers are doing that. Games like Battlefield 5 will definitely benefit from having 2 sticks of RAM. As you can see, GPU utilization is only 70%, so it's not being fed the information it needs fast enough. Now comparing the Pavilion with the Acer Nitro 5 with the same GPU and the same CPU but running dual channel, the differences are night and day. You see much better scaling as you lower quality settings, and even the 1% lows are at least 40% better. This will translate into a much smoother gameplay experience. Not all games will benefit so much with dual channel. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the GTX 1650 has 99% utilization and runs nice and cool with the CPU sipping power at under 10 watts and 60 degrees. Even the 1650 runs under 65 degrees. Performance is slightly behind the Nitro 5 when that was running single channel, and it's about 10% behind when it's running dual channel. I did do a separate video covering 10 games, so I do recommend you watch that to gain a good feel on how the Pavilion performs. But to suffice it to say, it runs very cool and very quiet. At idle, it is near silent, and even under load, we are only talking 40 decibels, so it's definitely a good laptop if you live in a warm environment or you don't want to disturb anybody. The bang and the loose from speakers were just average, so it's just as well the fan noise is quiet. You will notice from this thermal image that all of the heat is concentrated to the right hand side, so that may be more of an issue for left-handed players. All of the heat is pushed out of the back via a vent that is tucked just below the hinge area, via 2 heat pipes and 1 single heatsink. I'm usually not a great fan of this design, preferring the traditional 2 separate fans and 4 heatsinks, but since the 4600H uses so little power and the GTX 1650 only uses 50 watts, then it works fine. I do fear that something like the 4800H and the 1660 Ti would run too hot in this chassis. The thing that bothered me the most about this Pavilion was its screen. It's downright the worst laptop screen I have seen. It has awful viewing angles and poor colour shifts when viewed from anywhere unless you are bang straight looking at it, and even then the image looks washed out. Now it must be a TN panel, and a poor one at that. It has a refresh rate of 60Hz and a resolution of 1080p, which suits it for gaming in the sense that you get about 60 FPS in most AAA titles at high to very high settings, but its ghosting performance was terrible, which surprised me if it is a TN panel. Did I notice this while gaming? Well, not really, but then again, I did die more often than I normally do. Perhaps it actually did have an impact. It has a peak brightness of only 218 nits and an all-time low contrast of only 130 to 1. I was dumbfounded, so I had to test it again and I got the same results. For comparison, the Acer Nitro 5 with a 60Hz panel was much brighter all the way down to 0% brightness, and that had a great contrast ratio as well. Now the panel didn't have any backlight bleed, but it did have quite a bit of glow. The webcam is located at the top of the panel. So here's the webcam, 720p webcam. Overexposes things an awful lot, but the microphone is quite decent. I do like that, and of course the fan noise is quite low, so I can't hear that at all. And this is what it's like when you're typing. Now, how did the 4600H compare to competing models? Well, in Blender it did really well, beating the Nitro 5 by a minute and the i7-10750H by over 2 minutes. It was also 15% faster than the 10750H in Cinebench R20 and maintained its performance with repeated runs. With a long-running handbrake encode, it was also quite competitive. Now, it is an all-plastic build, which is true of all the Pavilion gaming laptops. It's a charcoal black in colour and the lid has a reflective HP logo in the centre, and Pavilion stenciled on the rear of the hinge. The hinge is still centrally located. It used to be shorter a couple of years ago, so I am pleased that with the longer length, screen twisting is not as bad as it once was. The hinge is reasonably stiff and still allows the lid to be opened with one hand. The keyboard deck copes well with smudges and fingerprints. The plastic Elan trackpad is quite large. It tracks okay, but the left click operation works quite high up and past the center point, making right clicking a little bit more awkward. The keys are okay, they are highlighted in green paint, and the backlighting is also green with 2 levels of brightness. You do have a separate number pad, so all in all the keyboard is quite decent. I did like having the separate power button, and above that is a speaker grill. Unlike previous Pavilions, this one is easy to pry open. The plastic panel has decent air intakes, and I managed to get around about 10 hours of YouTube streaming from the 52 watt-hour battery, and that's one of the reasons why I really like the 4600H CPU. Annoyingly, the adhesive paper that covers the RAM slots got embedded into the open slot. I believe the Wi-Fi card was Realtek, but it worked okay for me. And for storage, you have the one M.2 slot and a 2.5-inch drive. The power connector is located at the back on the left hand side, which is a nice location, keeping the cable away from your mouse hand, and we have one USB 2.0 which supports sleep and charge. On the right we have an HDMI 2.0, a second USB Type-A port, this time it's 3.1 Gen 1, and next to that is the RJ45 jack, a USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type-C that accepts data only, a combo headphone mic jack, and an SD card reader, which to be fair was pretty slow. Now it is pretty portable, weighing 4 pounds 10 ounces, or with a 150 watt power brick, 5 pounds 9 ounces. So how would I sum up the AMD Ryzen HP Pavilion 15? Well, to be honest, if it had dual channel and a decent 60Hz panel, I would be all over it at $650. As it stands, this panel is a killer, and it makes it very difficult to recommend. I don't often give a laptop a disown, but this would get that award unless it was priced $550 or lower. At least you can connect it to a monitor via HDMI. It cools very well by nature of the very efficient 4600H CPU, and the battery life was very good. Gaming performance was okay, but it would be helped with a second stick of RAM. When Ryzen laptops first came out, they were mostly burdened with subpar displays. I had hoped to have seen the end of that, but alas, this one beats them all. HP really needs to start sharing the same screens across their Pavilion and their Omen lines. Thank you for watching. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.